The Welcome Distraction Podcast with the Kemp Brothers. Their immature stories, advice, and opinions are their own and should be taken with the same level of seriousness as a drunk uncle's late-night conspiracy theory. Now buckle up, buttercups. It's about to get weird.
Hey, we're here with another Welcome Distraction. Thanks for joining us. If you're new, welcome. We're happy to have you. And if you're returning, thanks for coming back. We are recording every day, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, doing our podcast. But like or subscribe down below. It's easy. It's free. Share it with your friends. Happy to have you. I'm Nick. That's Brett. That's Chris. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about the movies that made us the Kemp Brothers. So if you're like us, we're big movie buffs. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about the movies that we were hooked on growing up, movies that drew us in, that built our sense of humor. We'll be talking about movies that maybe got us a little bit emotional, touched us a little bit, not in that way. And if we have time, we'll talk a little bit about some of the movies that we made, not those kind of movies. So
Kid movies.
And we'll bust out some of the footage if we can from our directorial debuts. So stick around. It's going to be worth waiting around for. So let's dive right into it. Let's start talking about what are your top movies. So let's go with Christopher first.
So I'm going to go with my top 5 movies. And these are top 5 movies, not necessarily the best movies are all time, but they're what made me the person I am today. I'm talking about movies that if it's on TBS, if it's on a channel and you catch it, you're like, oh, gotta watch it again. Those are the movies. So we're not talking about, was it the best movie ever made? No, I'm not talking about no Citizen Kane or anything crazy like that.
And it's Citizen Kane. No, that's not it.
Top 5 movies that mean the most to me. All right. Number 1, I'm going to go with Back to the Future. Back to the Future, I think a lot of folks say that, it has one of the best scripts of all time. They talk about from start to ending. And I know it's a trilogy, but I'm talking about the original. The second one didn't come out until 5 years later. Both the second and third were imitations. And yes, as a whole, they're a good package today. But those came out in 85. I do remember seeing it when we were super young. I mean, I don't think I can pinpoint exactly going to the movie theater. I know we did. And then we saw it probably every year for the rest of our life and counting. So that movie, we quote it all the time.
Great Scott!
Great Scott!
It's a part of our culture, environment. There's been movie rides about it. It's being celebrated for the 40th anniversary this year. And it's probably in a lot of ways stronger than ever. I think it was even back in the movie theater this year. So Back to the Future is my number 1. Number 2, I know there's a little bit of a curveball.
Which was better, part 2 or part 3?
Back to the Future?
Back to the Future.
Part 3.
Yeah, part 2 was 10. I agree. Going back to part 1, I just want to add a little comment. I remember getting in trouble for quoting that movie, because that's what we do. We quote the movies all the time. I was only like 4 or 5 years old, and I had no idea that bastard was a bad word. And so there's one part in the movie where he's like, no, you bastard! And I quoted that movie. Like, I had no idea what it meant. I just know that in the movie he's calling him a name. And I remember
you let me
Mom
watch
heard
it? You can't get me in trouble.
That's right. And so I called you guys a bastard. And she was like, what did you just say? And I'm like, what? Quoting Back to the Future.
Just wanted to wait up.
Got soap in the mouth.
Yeah, I think you actually used it right. So going on to my number 2 movie, it's a little bit of curveball, right? I'm going to go with, again, what means the most to me, Rocky 4, right? Rocky 4. Yeah, I remember Dad taking us to the movie theater. And back then it was, probably near the end of the Cold War. USSR, the Union versus the United States. So it was a big movie as far as, just a culture thing, West versus East. And it was just one of the first movies, Rocky movies. I know Rocky 1 got all the, accolades and, critical acclaim, but that's not where we kind of entered the Rocky world. Rocky 4 is when we got introduced to it. And from there, we're like, oh, wait, there's more. There's Rocky 3, Clubber Lang, and then going backwards and whatnot. Of course, now, you have all the different Rocky movies, Creed movies. But Rocky 4, that meant a lot to me growing up and really getting us into that.
What's your go-to quote from that?
Rocky 4 quote?
If he dies, he dies.
If he dies, he dies.
Yeah. Break his neck like a chicken. But I just remember him working out in the snow and everything, and he's doing all,
montage.
probably the steroids and working out with the robots and the machines and everything, and he's running through the snow. He's one arm push up in and doing pull ups in the bar with the fire going and everything.
Rocking that soundtrack. Oh man.
It's right.
Down
Fire,
on that one.
yeah.
Yes.
There's no easy way out,
Great soundtrack.
But anyway, so yeah, that's my number 2. Number 3, again, meaning to me, Forrest Gump. All right, Forrest Gump came out, I believe, in 94-ish, maybe a little bit earlier.
94, definitely 94.
Yep. And so we were, I think, in Virginia, visiting our mom during the time frame. Took us a while to actually get to see the movie, and then finally getting to see it, you realize how much, I guess, culture and different years that it grabbed certain things, maybe Vietnam War or different other things through pop culture. And Tom Hanks did an amazing job, but it hit a lot of different, topics that meant a lot to us. And now more than ever, we've been in the military and, things of that nature, you can appreciate it. And of course, again, all-time performance.
So I had a fight another Black Panther party.
Yeah, so many quotes from it. And the biggest takeaway from that whole thing was the soundtrack. The soundtrack was amazing.
It was a good one.
Yeah, I think, what would it cost, or what did they pay to get those songs added to the movie? And again, there's a little bit of a theme there because Robert Zemeckis directed Back to the Future and Forrest Gump. So
It's you
I like
know
his
and
style.
shit.
It's just so iconic. And I know, Nicholas, we were with you in, I believe, in Savannah, where they filmed that famous bus scene on the bench that was actually not there where they filmed it. And once it was filmed, they have since removed it because people would come there and want to sit there and recreate that scene. It would cause such a traffic issue right there. They removed it altogether. I think there's a sign there that says, hey, there's more to see somewhere else, but not here. Basically, get out of the middle of the road. So, but yeah. So number 3 for me is Forrest Gump. Number 4, Shawshank Redemption. And I know that's on a lot of people that list and everything. Now that one really comes into, it's just a good movie from start to finish, whether it be cinematography, just well written, well acted. Again, a lot of quotes talking about appreciating life and a good guy getting wronged, and then what that means a lot is a villain in the end. The guy that's really sticking it to him, he gets they get it over on him and put him away. I don't want to give it away for those who haven't seen it.
No spoilers. Sorry.
Yeah,
check it out.
It's been 40 years, 30 years.
Let's put it, he really stuck to the man at the end of that. And then number 5, category, any guesses? Any guesses? What I'm thinking for number 5. No, it might not be your list at all. But again, these are movies that probably made us in the humor that if we see part of it, probably going to watch it from that point on, or hell, maybe going, there's certain movies where they'll come on and I'm like, well, I'm not going to watch commercials. I'll go ahead and put the movie back in. So number 5 for me is Caddyshack. All right.
Good one. Good one.
It's an older movie, I guess nowadays, but it had icons, legends, Chevy Chase, Bill Murray in it. As they were creating that movie, I think at the time they were trying to pull it off. They didn't even know if it was going to work, and become.
Did I tell you the story about the time I played poker with Chevy Chase?
Yeah.
Well, let's share that some other time.
I heard about that. Like I was standing outside the room when it was happening. It's crazy.
Oh man.
Yeah. Good times though. Good guy, that Chevy, yeah. But yeah, it really, the sense of humor in that movie is really in line with mine and, probably the Kemp Brothers in general, as far as the quotes and the different things that happen in that movie and that just plain old shenanigan.
What an incredible Cinderella story. This unknown comes out of nowhere to lead the pack.
But yeah, that's my top 5. And, a lot of that is who we are today, or who I am today, in the sense of humor, and really take it from there and go. That's all I got. What you guys got?
Yeah. Good list. A lot of good one-liners in all those movies.
Yeah, my list is the right list.
Let's see how similar. I mean, we just did an episode on twin reviews. We'll let Brett go next. I'm curious to see how similar his list might be to the twin.
Let's see if we're a good newlywed.
I'll go second since I'm the middle child. All right, so yes, my list is similar to Christopher's because they're good movies, not just because we're twins.
That's right.
Twins.
So, my number 1 movie is Dumb and Dumber.
Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Just kidding.
Hey, the sequel.
By that one. Hey, yeah. Just when you
are one
can't do it.
pathetic loser. That's heads are falling off.
But no, so
Pity.
my number
Pity.
one, and I've been pretty vocal about it. My number one is Shawshank Redemption. That is the best movie of all time to me. I don't think it was as big as it is now, as far as being everybody's favorite or near the top of the list. That one came out in '94 too, the same time as Forrest Gump did. So that summer, that was a big movie year. And then there's another movie on there too that also came out that same year that's on my list somewhere. But Shawshank Redemption, I won't beat it to death since Christopher already stole that one from me too. But
Favorite quote?
It's such a good one. So my favorite quote from that one is, "Fear can hold you prisoner, but hope can set you free." Yeah. So it being all about the prison. And I love a good prison escape movie. Great Escape is one from way back when. But I love a good escape movie where you have to come up with a plan. And this one just kind of has all the elements. He was wrong. He went to prison. And the way he just kind of befriends stuff, the people that are in there. And they kind of learn how to live and love with each other. And it's got all the elements. So
my favorite quote is, "Brooks was here."
Farther in there.
Favorite quote, "Brooks was here."
Brooks
Right
is
where
dead. His body was.
We'll have to add a disclaimer at the beginning of this episode that spoilers ahead.
Yeah. My number two is Forrest Gump. And so Christopher stole that one too, but he had that one a little bit lower down. So that's what was that, number three for you? But number two for me is Forrest Gump. There's so much to like about that with the story, Gen A, and the way it's got so many ties to the historical facts. I love history, all the things. So it just ties in a lot of the cultural icons and the moments and movements throughout our time and recent history of the last, 60, 70 years or so. So it was, I really liked that too. So that was mine, my top two. Number three, and this is where my list can kind of, you can debate me all the way down, probably the next 10 and stuff. But same year, another really good movie that came out, Pulp Fiction. I really love that movie. So this was one that really put Quentin Tarantino on the map. Pulp Fiction, such a good movie. There's a lot of good lines in that one.
Brought some careers back.
Brought John Travolta back. Samuel Jackson was still doing his thing by being out there and being involved. But
check out the big brain on Brad. You're a smart motherfucker. That's right.
Bruce Willis kind of did a role in that movie for just little to nothing. The role he took on that was pretty iconic, and it was bigger, I think, than anticipated. And just the way they made that movie, the way the chapters kind of bounced around, it didn't flow like a traditional movie. So that kind of really put Quentin Tarantino on the map as
it was very
as a filmmaker.
At the time.
Yeah. So another really good one and very quotable, Dark Knight. Love that one, So out of all the Batman movies, clearly it's the second one of the trilogy that Christopher Nolan did. And that one, posthumously, Heath Ledger wins the Oscar for the Joker, and his take on the Joker just makes it so rewatchable too, Christian Bale, he's a good Batman, but I don't think he knocked my socks off really. But that movie in particular, because of Heath Ledger and the Joker, that one really just kind of blew everything away. And his quotes and what he says,
I would agree he was the best Joker out of all the Jokers. Now, a lot of people like Jack Nicholson, but I think Heath Ledger, obviously put his whole life into it, and iconically that was one. His last real role.
Yeah, I think that was apples and oranges though. The way he played the Joker and the way Heath Ledger did. And Heath Ledger's was like a traumatic, been through some life and stuff. The stories about you want to know how I got these scars, and he alludes to traumatic shit in his life.
Is it the scars? You want to know how I got them?
Where Jack Nicholson is just like the comic book character version of it with the perma smile and just kind of goofing off. But he did a really good job. I like that. Michael Keaton, probably my favorite Batman though. But I really like that movie. And then you could make an argument for these other ones too. Plus is right up there too in my top, 3 to 5. Love that movie. Got to watch that because it's based on true story. And see the mafia stuff and Joe Pesci, Ray Liotta, and all the other characters that come with that. Robert De Niro. You can't get a better cast than that, and how they just kind of portrayed everything. And then I think that's where the term "getting whacked" was really made popular for all the stuff
became
that was
mainstream.
Going on.
Yeah, there was people getting whacked.
They whacked them. Fucking whacked. Fuck.
Yep. And then I really like Interstellar. Interstellar's a good one, but you got to have about 10 years of your life to be able to watch it and be able to comprehend it all, because Christopher Nolan did that one as well. And
I actually wasn't a fan of that one.
Never saw it.
Matthew McConaughey.
the hell wrong with you? Well, you should watch it, Nicholas.
I've heard it's a good movie.
It's good. I actually got the little one to watch that, and she was kind of blown away with it. I thought it would be a little bit over her head for her being a little bit younger, but it was good. It was kind of emotional. No! Makes you think about
pretty
stuff.
deep.
There's some pretty good ones. And we'll round out my list. I really like this movie, Seven.
No,
That movie.
What's in the box? What's in the box?
But that movie that put Kevin Spacey on the map at that time. That was before American, and he just played such a good, evil, calm, cool, collected villain. Kind of guy. Brad Pitt, his performance was really good in that. And it was one of those movies where it just kind of came out of nowhere. You weren't expecting it to be what it was. You got the 7 sins, and it goes through each one of that. And I like these kind of stories that are moving along and systematically, and it's going somewhere. And then just the way that it's got that twist at the end, it really kind of just grabs you and you're like, what the hell? And just the way he had it all plotted out, you're like, oh man. And then Morgan Freeman was like, no, he's got the upper hand. He's got the upper hand. But Brad Pitt's losing his mind, so.
You know why? Because he knew it was in the box.
Spoiler. Yep.
If you don't know what's in the box, check it out.
What's in the box? What's in the fucking box?
Yeah. But
Find out.
I was going to say, with that biggest movie twist, if we were doing one as a side, biggest movie twist, that would be The Usual Suspects, also with Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
So I think those are my 4 to 5 top movies. Kind of words to live by, what we've grown up in, but don't even get me started on all the comedies. And like Christopher was saying, shit used to be on TBS and TNT. Shawshank and Rocky were back and forth all the time on those channels. Well, I get sucked in, I turn it on and I'm going to start watching it next 4 hours. Oh, they're playing all 4 of them back to back. We're going to watch all the Rockies. So how about you, Nicholas? What do you got?
On that note with Kevin Spacey, he did such a good job. He reminds me of the character from Inglourious Bastards, Christopher Waltz, who plays for the SS. And I remember
9.
What a great job he did in that role. And I remember somebody interviewed him and they said, what did you tap into to become so evil for that character? And he's like, he wasn't evil. And they're like, huh? And he's like, they thought they were doing what was good. And that gets you into the psychological part of it. So Kevin Spacey's role, like what he thought he was doing was good. He was trying to teach people a lesson on, the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah.
So it's kind of maniacal, but
warped. Yeah.
Yeah.
But true.
But they did a really good job. So my list, I knew some of these were going to be coming. And so I went a little bit of a different route. I went more of these were the movies that really stood out to me that I remember watching a lot when we were growing up and it really stuck with me.
Because you knew we were going to steal all your movies with our list?
So Shawshank is definitely on my list, but I put it towards the bottom because I knew that was going to get taken. Because that's 100% a great movie. Got to be in the top 5 of best movies ever. Along with Forrest Gump, that one's on the list, but I didn't put it in there. I put number 1 for me, Goonies. So for me, and again, like this is in reference to just what really I gravitated to, because being the younger brother, I always felt like I was part of a group, so I wanted to be part of a pack, and Goonies, they had their little club, they were the Goonies, and they were out to find adventure. And so I feel like that really drove us to want to form, our own little club. And so we had the friends that were over on the, the neighborhood, and we didn't have an official name for a club or anything like that, but I kind of feel like we always looked at ourselves as kind of like, a club, a group.
Yeah. We were kind of our own little rat pack.
We just enjoyed going on adventures, and we had woods, and we'd go through there, and we're creating forts and stuff like that. And so to me, it was adventurous, and it was a good time. The second one was Brat Patrol, and I don't think this is a very well-known movie, but Sean Astin was in Goonies. Sean Astin was in this movie. This was a group of kids. They were kind of outsiders. They had their own little club again. So again, there's the theme there. They had their own little language. They could blink and talk with each other. They would get into stuff, but they kind of, they find themselves in a little bit of a mix up, and they're trying to save the day. And So that was something that we always kind of
Do you remember the other
watching a lot.
movie that was similar to Brat Patrol and Goonies with also Sean Astin?
Toy
Excellent
Soldiers.
movie. Oh, yeah.
Toy
Yeah.
Soldiers.
Love that one. That was a really good one, too. That'd probably be in my top 10. Yeah.
That's a really good
You
one.
haven't seen it.
If you haven't seen it, yeah, definitely go out and watch it. That's where Sean Astin's a little bit older, and he's off at he's like a reformatory school, or
Yeah, it's kind of military school-ish. Yeah,
military school, and they get held hostage, and they got to come together, as a little group, and
kind of group of misfits got to save the day.
Yeah, that's a good one. Love that movie.
Really good one. Another movie that I remember watching a lot when we were kids that I actually just came across and watched with the girls the other day, Radio Flyer.
Yeah.
That was a good movie with Elijah Wood and the kid from Jurassic Park. I'm not going to think of his name.
Bohemian Rhapsody, he was in that too.
That's right.
But a movie about brothers who are going through some tough times. Parents are split up, and mom gets into an abusive relationship with a guy who's beating the kid. And obviously, it's not a completely happy story, but it's about the older brother again defending the younger brother.
Narrated by who?
Tom Hanks.
That's right. Look at that. Full circle. We're back to Forrest Gump.
As I get older, Ferris Bueller hits my list. And I remember there's a quote from that I always love, where he says, life comes at you pretty fast. If you don't stop to look around every once in a while, you might miss it.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
To me, that was always deep. It's like, you gotta, take the time to stop and smell the roses. Like you get too busy, and next thing you know, like 20 years have gone by and you just missed out on everything.
Yeah. Oh. Ferris Bueller's definitely the ultimate rebel. Get out there and have an adventure. Stick it to the school system in this case. The parents get away with something. Hopefully people have seen this by the time they've listened to us. But and in the end, he gets away with it. He has one of the best days you could ever have as a kid or a high school kid growing up.
It's a John Hughes movie. John Hughes movies we could talk about all day. Between Home Alone and Uncle Buck and 16 Candles,
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Those can all be on the list as well.
Genius.
So quotable, those movies. We could sit here and quote those movies all day. And that pretty much rounds out my list. Again, like that's not my all-time top 5, but those are the ones that I feel like when I look back on what kind of shaped me and who I am and become, those movies really stick out from when we were younger.
Yeah. And I think when we talk about the movies that made us and things like that, I think it's also the movies made us who we are. And for us, it was like, how did we watch the movies growing up, or how do they enter our lives? And some things I can think of, young. First time I remember being able to watch something kind of on demand was a beta top loader VCR. A lot of people don't even know what that is. That was the VCR where you actually loaded the tape on top and you had to press it down for it to start playing. Now, traditional VCRs, which are becoming more and more rare, kids today don't even know what that is, where you actually put the tape inside the machine, then it eats your tape. But beta loader, Fraggle Rock, HBO, things of that nature. And then you move on years later. If you wanted in-demand movies, for us, it was going to our neighbors'
Spice Channel.
Our neighbors had a VHS private collection of VHS movies. Now, I'm not talking like, hey, look at my bookshelf here of my top 50 or 50 that I got. I'm talking thousands and thousands of movies that have now taken up an entire room or two with you'd go over to their house and you'd be like, there's a movie. You would go to their binder and you would
still have
look.
that shit.
Yeah, and you would go look in the binder and you would look up, what number it was, because, everybody would love to have a movie theater like that, or movies collection in alphabetical order. But as you're building it, you can't really just kind of do that. So you just have to go find the number and see if you can, find the correlating number within thousands of movies. All these different drawers to pull out. So it was funny that, we'd go over there, but, all these thousands of movies, and these neighbors of ours, they would always watch probably the same, 10 to 20 movies, depending on the time of year. Go over there like, oh my gosh, this movie again. Whether we liked it or not, we ended up would watch it, because back then, what was on TV in front of you is what you watched, because that was what was on, and somebody else had already put it in. So you had
they
to watch
didn't
it.
have cable TV, so they just always had movies playing, and they just had them all over the place.
And
Tapes.
people would come from all, the neighborhood. It was a U-shaped neighborhood, and a lot of people knew each other. And so they're like, you know what? So-and-so might have the movie. Let's go over there. And people would constantly coming over to their house. So that was kind of what our beginning of our teenage years, how we watched movies, things of that nature. But yeah, that was odd how you brought up, they didn't have cable. They had maybe an antenna. I don't even know. But for the most part, they solely lived on watching VHS tapes. That was it. Nonstop. And then from there on, movies that made us, getting older. I remember my first DVD was, I think, U-571, which was
Mine too.
Yeah, was a submarine movie.
Really?
And I remember it.
Matthew McConaughey.
I got it particularly to test out my surround sound system. The depth charges going off and everything, testing it out. So I remember that being my first DVD. Then moving forward, you progress.
Wait, mine
to
was Heat.
Heat.
Oh.
Heat.
Al
Val
Pacino.
Kilmer.
Found that. Yep. That was really good. That's an awesome movie too. That should be like in the top 20. Yeah. Okay, sorry, go on.
Sorry, and then progressing, and then you talk about DVDs, and for a while there was a battle between HD DVD, and Blu-ray DVD, and then Blu-ray actually won out. And for a while you're like, oh, do I get an HD DVD player or a Blu-ray player? You got to make a choice because they were coming out, and then Blu-ray won out, and another one went away.
Forgot about that shit. I forgot there was two different types.
Yeah, and then eventually things started going digital. You could buy a Blu-ray and get a digital copy as well. You're like, oh man, so I could have it and digital? Okay, and just download it. A different thing. But then fast forward, here we are. Netflix should be a thing where you only got DVDs in the mail.
Yeah.
Today, kids don't even know that. Used to, oh, that's a movie. Let me send off for it. Then you'd have to return it.
Yeah, to make sure you send back the other two shits so you could get another.
You had that, or you had Redbox. I still see some of those.
Yeah,
where you go and you can rent the DVD, and then you got to take it back.
Put that little shade over. You do the thing, beep 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 beep. Yeah, and it spits it out. But yeah, and then now everything's digital. Netflix is what it is today, where it's all streaming, and that's where we are. Everything's streaming. You don't really need cable, the old school cable TV anymore. If you have good internet, you can just stream pretty much anything. So eventually, maybe even our kid movie will be streamable someday that we made.
Yeah. So speaking of that, we made a movie one day. It wasn't just one day. I
think we were teenagers.
I think it was over the course of an entire summer, wasn't it?
We were 16. Yeah, I think we were 16. Nicholas was 13.
Yeah, it's about the time Forrest Gump was coming out.
94. Yeah, Pulp Fiction. Sure.
So we had a giant video cassette recorder.
Full tape.
Even if you've seen like some of the ones here, like I guess they still have them, but they probably just record digitally. We had giant one that it had to sit on your shoulder. There was no holding out. I actually
still have it. I have it in my closet right now.
We'll have to get it. We'll have to get a picture of it.
And it doesn't turn on anymore, but I do have it in the closet. And it's an artifact. Yeah. So I'll have to get a picture of it and load it up.
The battery for this thing is probably heavier than the cameras that people use nowadays. I mean, people use their phones now. But just the battery itself, it's bigger and heavier than a cell phone. And so we got a hold of this camera. Dad let us use it, and we made our own movie. And it was called Who Killed Who? And we'll have to upload some footage from that movie. But we went all out. We wrote a script for this movie, right? We did opening credit scenes. We had
soundtrack.
Our own.
Yeah, we violated some copyright infringement with the soundtrack. No, we didn't.
Yeah.
You know what?
We
did it.
We probably wouldn't even be able to upload it on YouTube because of the violation.
Yeah,
we'd have to,
the music.
Probably have to mute
I think we used a John Lennon song, which he does not let his music get used in any movies. I doubt we're gonna be able to get.
I know we had Bob Seger.
Well, maybe our movie can be the first.
Yeah.
We'll have to reach out to his son.
Yeah, we'll have to get that loaded up.
Ono's still alive, right?
Yeah, cheers.
Yoko.
So Yoko Ono, yeah. So we did our own costume design. We wrote, like I said, our own script, right? We each were directors. We each were the cameraman. We each were multiple characters, right? So we tapped into our own creativity and our love for movies, and we decided we want to make one. So I think it lasted about 30 minutes, and it's a murder mystery, right? I guess it's a sci-fi, right? There's I don't want to give away
Oh,
too
we were
much.
pretending, all right. Spoiler. Yeah.
We had amazing costumes, and there
Our props are great.
There's
Alec
real
Baldwin
guns
did power.
involved. There's midgets involved or children. I don't remember which one it was.
It was us.
I remember we were punching. Somebody was punching somebody. We broke a pencil. Snap! Right on cue. Snap!
I think there's even some bad language in there. Like I think an F-bomb got dropped in there. If you listen
someone
closely,
said up yours.
Get the fuck off me.
It was a good time though. It was a good time. It was embarrassing, still is, but it was fun. I think we sent a copy back to the same people that had the VHS library.
Another movie to watch.
They added it to their collection.
I wonder what they did
price.
with the copy we sent them. Yeah, because we sent them a copy, didn't we?
Yeah, we'll have to check.
Yeah. So we're gonna we still have it on the giant VHS tapes. We're gonna get it digitalized, and we'll upload some footage onto here so you all can.
You guys can see some movie magic,
some laughs out of that shit.
If we do anything, that'll be the thing that goes viral.
Oh, Nick, can I come in? Here, come on in. Sit down right there. Yeah. No! 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 No!
Switching gears a little bit, still talking about movies. Are there any movies that you can think of that, made you cry? Now, if you can think of the first one, that even better, bonus points. But are there any movies out there that kind of choked you up and you're like, God damn, man, I can't believe I'm about to do this shit?
Well, the first one I remember was our half sister took, I don't know if it was all of us to the movie theater, but it was to see My Girl. And if you don't, the only way you're not crying is if you don't have a soul, because that movie it's a growing up, a rite of passage, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden it turns completely dark. And if you haven't seen it, tough shit. Macaulay Culkin is in it. He gets stung by some bees and he dies. And
very
Anna
abruptly.
What the hell happened? He's dead?
Anna Shlumsky plays the main character, the girl, and her little best friend dies. And then there's a part where she finally comes out to see him, and she's like, "Where is the glasses? He can't see without the glasses."
And where is his glasses? He can't see without his glasses.
So I remember being
then
like,
Dan Aykroyd comes and pulls her away.
Yeah.
That's right, Dan Aykroyd.
That's a tearjerker for sure.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah. Jamie Lee Curtis. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's a tearjerker for sure. But what do you remember? Christopher's going to say the same thing.
I mean, I don't even think I cried in it, but if there was going to be a time that had been close, there's not too many movies I can think of that were, that I can move past the fact that it's a movie and it's sad, I've watched movies with the kids, and stuff where they're just bawling. You're like, oh my God, are we watching the same thing? Okay, I get it. It's sad, but there's not a lot of movies, There are movies though that are so good and like emotional that you're like, man, I really felt something. I wish I could see that again for the first time. But no. But I think My Girl's about the only one I can think of that's really, kind of got me when I was younger. That's about it. What about you, Nicholas?
Patch Adams.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a scene where the girl that he has fallen in love with and has worked very hard to really win her, affection. Because she doesn't care for him at first. She's there to go to medical school. Again, spoilers. And she doesn't want any distractions. But they fall in love, and she gets murdered. And he's there at her funeral, and he has a poem that he's reading her, and when he's reading that poem, like, oh my God, it's gut wrenching. And I remember tearing up pretty good, and I was like, oh my God, what am I doing here?
Yeah, I showed that one to my daughters as well. And then, fast forward, sorry if I'm stealing your thunder, with Rob Williams having gone through what he went through near the end of his life. This movie, at the beginning, it's about, battling mental health and things of that nature. And then what he went through in real life. And then you sit there and you know him as an actor and what he went through. And then you see the movie and what happened in the movie. So my kids, for one of them, was definitely like too much, like, turn it off, no. But yeah, that's a real good movie, though. Good movie. Good call.
That reminded me of one, what is it? Sam I Am with, what's his face? Sean Penn?
Ever seen
yeah.
it? I never talked
That's a
about.
good one.
I think it was Dakota Fanning when she did one of her first ones. Yeah, that was a real
Mhm.
gut-wrenching one where he's all crying in that, and one part where the court's taken away, and why is he not going home with me? Like, oh God.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good one. But he didn't win the Oscar because you know why.
Yeah.
He went full.
Tropic Thunder. Back to quotable movies.
Never go full retard. But
Um,
that is a quote from a movie, which can bring us
Yeah.
to our next topic of what are some movies that they've made in the past that they probably couldn't get away with making nowadays because of lines like that.
Yeah, and Tropic Thunder because he goes blackface. Nobody would risk that to their career right now.
Yeah, but that was still one of the best collections of casts and overall, I guess, comedic performance by everybody. And did Ben Stiller direct that movie?
I think so.
I think he did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, I think just behind the scenes of that and how it all came together. Yeah, it's just a funny collection and
Yeah,
story
people just
altogether.
enjoy it for it being a movie and not take it so serious. It's
Yeah.
just a movie where people are playing characters and you want them to say the dumbest shit and make you laugh. You know, one of the best cameos ever. Tom Cruise in that.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
If you look at the character for what they are, like I would argue that that's one of Robert Downey Jr.'s greatest performances. He did such a good job. It's so believable. You forget that that's actually him.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's supposed to be playing an Australian playing a black dude.
Yeah.
I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
We lost. Give me that goddamn map.
What's some other movies, no matter how long ago that they've made that they probably couldn't make today?
Blazing Saddles.
Oh, yeah.
Way
For
too much.
sure.
I mean, the whole thing's about racism. That's the premise of it.
Yeah, and I saw an interview where they talked to Mel Brooks, and they said, "Would you make that movie today?" And he goes, "No, we went too far. We went too far." But at the time, that was where the kind of the culture was. They were talking about race and going back and forth and tiptoeing over the line. And maybe it was a little bit farther out there than it is now. But yeah, even now, standards is like, no, we went too far. We went too far. It was definitely a different push the envelope of boundaries. Got a lot of attention. Still funny.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No.
And on the flip side of that, I would argue that there are a ton of movies. I mean, almost every movie nowadays where the CGI is so incredible that there's so many movies that they're making today that they couldn't make back in the day.
Yeah. The whole Marvel universe wouldn't exist without that stuff.
Yeah. Avatar.
And it's amazing. You look at some of the stuff that like movies like Star Wars and what they did with what limited technology was available and how they were to make it work. So pretty amazing,
And how it still kind of holds up over time for what it was. I know they've remastered them and stuff, but they stand on their own. Even from way back then, they didn't.
Right.
They made it good for what it was instead of just like it's good for right now. It held up. 50 years later.
Yeah, because there is some movies you watch now from back then. And the special effects are so bad. You're like, no, I can't watch this anymore because you see things that are now. There's certain special effects that are acceptable. You're like, oh yeah, that looks good. And you're like, no, that does not look good. I will no longer entertain this movie.
Yeah. Try to show family members like, hey, you watch this movie, it's really good. And then once you start watching, like, I don't remember it being this bad and cheesy or special effects being so terrible.
Yeah, if you watch the first Terminator movie, the special effects, a lot of it was all puppeteers and things of that nature. There was no CGI. It was just before it. James Cameron did Titanic, and then he takes it to the next level with Avatar, and now 3 movies out for that. But again, for what it was back then, it was cutting edge. So that's why it was so popular and still popular today.
Movies that are kind of cringe now. Are there any that you can think of that maybe you watched with your kids that were movies that you liked growing up or you liked back in the day that you've watched with them and they kind of look at you like, what the hell was that? I can think of one. I'll come up with the first one while you guys think about it if you don't have one already. Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So
yeah,
I haven't seen that movie since we were kids. But I remember when we were kids watching it thinking like, this is kind of silly. It's funny. It was a fun
it was
watch.
on next door all the time.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the movies.
That was one of the movies for sure.
I'm pretty sure that's where we saw it for the first time.
They wore a hole in that thing.
I put that on for my kids probably a couple months ago during the summer, and they were like, they got done with it, and they were like, "What the hell did we?"
So they watched the whole thing.
They watched it. Yeah,
Well, it
they
became
gave it
relevant
cachet.
not too long ago when Paul Rubin, when he died and he had a documentary, he actually put another movie out just a few years ago. But even that level of Pee Wee Herman's Adventure was totally different from when we were kids. Totally different. It was very artistic and weird.
Yeah. One that I think was cringy that it's not cringy as in like, oh my gosh, this is awkward. It was just it didn't stand up over the test of time, and I wish it did. Was Short Circuit. Short Circuit, it was ahead of its time at that time because it was a robot that turned into basically self-aware AI, and it was Johnny Five. Johnny Five's alive.
Number 5 is alive.
It did so well, they made a second one, and it had some pretty big actors back in the day. Ali Sheedy, Michael Gutenberg, and some other familiar faces. But I tried to show it to the kiddos, probably a couple years ago, and we didn't even barely get into it. Like, we didn't even get to get it going because they're like, this is just so bad. I mean, the soundtrack was cheesy, the acting, all of it. I mean, even then, there was basically a Tropic Thunder type dude in there. He was a whitest dude, and he played an Indian dude, and that wouldn't play. But it was just
that's true.
Yeah. So it was just, I really like to think more fondly of it in the past than what it really is now. I hope they remake it and they do it right. But who knows? But that's mine. Yeah.
Yeah. Comedy series that they wouldn't make anymore. That they made, I think, 6 or 7 of them. The Police Academy movies. Oh my gosh! I watched, I think the very first one not long ago. I can't remember if I'd ever seen it all the way through or been that long. But watching it now, I mean, good Lord, the acting, the special effects, and everything, what they said and what they did, funny at the time, but now it is cringy to watch.
Classic 80s, 90s comedies.
But those were in the movie theaters back then. Weird.
Yeah.
Wouldn't happen now. Wouldn't even make it to TV.
All right. Well, that wraps things up for us for this episode. Again, if you're a returning viewer, we appreciate you coming by. Please share with your friends. Let them know that we're here on social media, putting stuff out on Instagram, TikTok. But if you're new, go ahead and like and subscribe down below. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. We look forward to seeing you again. I'm Nick.
I'm Brett.
I'm Christopher.
And this is the Welcome Distraction. Thanks for coming by.
Peace out.
Later.